And so, yeah, welcome everyone to Centrifuge Community Call number 16. It's really great to have you all here. Tonight, we will be hearing really important updates. Lucas is going to kick us off talking a bit bigger picture about Tin Lake, the underwriter token, some big ambitions and plans that Centrifuge has. Then we're going to have Leah talking about the Aave integration. We have Jason Jones here on the call with us tonight, who's the founder and initiator of Enbridge, who have launched the gig economy pool. And Jason will be talking us through this really super exciting new opportunity, sharing the story behind that and why this is a super important initiative. And then there'll be a chance for you to ask questions to Jason. And we will discuss Altair. Thanks, Leah, for changing the slide. Towards the end of the call. So yeah, there will be time to ask questions about Altair later on in the call tonight. And I'll pass to, we can stop sharing the slides now, thank you. I'll pass to Lucas to kick us off, and yeah, let's go. My name is Kate, by the way.
Nice to have everyone here. I just wanted to give a bit of an update on what's been going on. Interrupt me if you have any questions or sort of things you want to add, please. And sort of anything is not quite clear or you want to say stuff, please do throughout the call. Really, like everyone can jump in and can contribute. But yeah, so what's been going on at Centrifuge in the last couple of weeks and months, actually, for those that haven't been following too closely. We have one of the big goals for us, right, is to have real world assets really become an integral part of DeFi and to bring sort of the benefits that DeFi is bringing to these assets, to these borrowers, to sort of these businesses. So we're of course not doing that by ourselves. We are doing that with people that want to provide liquidity for these assets, but then also DeFi protocols that want to provide liquidity or that want to accept these assets as collateral. Of course, the longest and biggest project that we've been working on is together with the Maker community, to bring these assets in as collateral. It's very cool to see that we actually now have 4 asset types live on Maker. Not all of them have started using their vaults yet, but this is actually a big improvement. It also brings us to brings a few learnings and a few sort of new work that as we grow this, as we scale this, we have to help these asset originators better report to the Maker community, sort of like thinking of like how do we set up governance of these pools for Maker and for the asset originators. So that's a bit of the work that's ongoing. But then, and I don't want to steal too much of what you're going to be talking about, Leah, but of course the other super exciting thing there is Aave, which is going to be probably the second major protocol that we're going to work with, and to basically build out, right, like these integrations for real world assets into DeFi, like block by block. That's of course we're not going to stop there, and so definitely a big focus for us. And really, if for anybody here in the community, is let's figure out how we make real world assets part of every DeFi protocol, part of every conversation that it happens, right? Like whether that's in other money markets, in different lending protocols, in like there's insurance protocols, there are money markets, right? Sort of like all of these primitives. Let's figure out how we can use them with real world assets. That's one of the things I think about, and we all think about, actually. Going from the DeFi protocols to different users and stakeholders, so that use Centrifuge, our issuers and asset originators, we're also seeing some cool stuff happening there. One of the big goals for us was, well, like we started doing proof of concepts that were like hundreds of thousands of DAI in size. We're now actually, our biggest pool is 13.7 million DAI now. Our second biggest is 6.1 million. And then for TuneFi, the third biggest is 1.3 million DAI. What does it mean? Sort of one of the things we want to do, of course, is we want to grow these pools, because that's really how we get this to scale. It's not just by bringing on more endless number of different asset originators, but also like helping the ones we have grow. And they're doing that in different ways. And it's cool to see that sort of we were able to launch pools at a bigger size. We're able to figure out how we like scale those up. The existing ones, one of the developments, and I think Jason's going to talk a bit about what his strategy is to bring different asset originators and put them into one pool. So if you have related assets, you can now sort of invest in the gig economy pool and sort of earn interest and have exposure to different ways of doing financing in the gig economy. And that's another development that I think is great to see. Really also, I think something that is a good exciting development is that as we're actually sort of growing on how big these pools are, we're starting to see an ever growing interest in maybe I call them more conservative, more traditional players in the financial system, who come and look at Centrifuge, sort of understanding what we're doing and seeing, oh, like this could actually be a new way for them to build their credit funds that they've been building in the past, using no blockchain at all. And so that's a cool thing that's happening. It also requires us to spend a bit more time, and this is something that some of our team has started really working on a lot in the last couple of weeks, on making a institutional grade investment process. So I think a lot of us here on the call are used to like holding crypto in hot wallets, dealing with MetaMask, dealing with other like more, let's say, edgy technologies. If you start talking to people who manage third parties' money, who have auditors that need to sign off on a lot of the stuff that they do, who really have very strict processes to follow, they start to ask questions like, is there a qualified custodian where I can hold in and drop? How can I make sure that the money that I deposit doesn't get lost on the way from being converted from dollars to DAI and then to drop, right? So these questions, and that's what we're doing on the investor side to be able to serve like bigger investors, is exactly that, sort of working with custodians and others to bring a better offering there. Those are the more shorter term things. The more longer term topics, I think I want to talk about too. First of all, underwriting. It's a topic that we think a lot about, and we're starting to build and model how we believe this can be done on chain. One of the key points of how TinLake works is it relies on the risk of a loan to be accurately priced, right? Meaning the interest rate for this loan is enough so that you can cover the risk of default. And that's something that in the long run we want to decentralize, this decision of whether a loan should be 5% or 10%, whether the person should be able to borrow 80% of the value of the collateral or 50% or 90%, right? So these questions. And so that's what we're building with the underwriting token. And there's not that much that I can share yet on sort of where this is going, but it's definitely sort of on our list of priorities for the end of the year, to make sort of headwind and also share with the community our ideas of how we actually turn this decision into something that not just the asset originators and the issuers are doing sort of by themselves and are trusted sort of in a trusted way, but how different parties can contribute to that decision, and different parties have value at stake, so that they're sort of incentivized actually to do a good job at underwriting, because that's really that's the key when you sort of look at these pools, right? Is we want to make sure that these assets are correctly priced. That's it on the underwriting token. And maybe lastly, of course, if you've been following Centrifuge in the last couple of days, we've been full on in our push for the Altair parachain. Really exciting and really interesting. I think it's going to be, it's a really hard to grasp concept, the idea of a test net or sort of a network that has value but is still sort of considered more experimental. I'm speaking about Kusama and also by extension Altair, but it is, I think, an extremely valuable chance for us to build out and test things early, to have different use cases that maybe are a bit too unproven to build sort of into our core product, but that you want to test out quickly with lower stake, faster cycles. And that's really where we think Altair will go. And we'll talk a bit about why we want to launch it and how it will work. So yeah, that's maybe like all of this, not all of this stuff, but some of the stuff that I think has been exciting in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to sort of contribute, what inspires you, like what brings you to this call, or where you see like the potential for Centrifuge to bring more use cases to more users, different users, new stuff, like please share. That's what we're here to learn from each other and talk about.
Yeah, nice one, Lucas. Opening the floor. Does anyone want to, it's a bit scary sometimes putting your voice out, but does anyone want to respond to Lucas with this nice prompt? Like, what are you inspired about? What are you like, what brought you here, Roy? No. Or like, what is so interesting about this, you know, the real world assets and DeFi, and in particular, what we're doing at Centrifuge, according to you?
I can say a couple of words. I was just, I just heard Lucas speak about the underwriting token. Obviously, there's not too much information, but I kind of get the whole higher level idea. I think what excites me is the decentralization of real world assets. And I think, decentralizing all these different steps of loan, financing, including underwriting, collateral valuation, things like that. Like we've been thinking a lot about collateral valuation and how the process in the real world right now, I think is completely broken, and it's putting a lot of roadblocks for us to originate new loans. I mean, nothing to do with Centrifuge, but just in the sort of in our process. And then so I think that's what excites me, is like complete decentralization of the whole loan financing process on all angles, which I think is the goal here.
Yeah, nice one, Kirill. Do you want to respond to that, Lucas, or should we keep?
Yeah, no, I mean, the underwriter token, yeah, you're right. There's not a lot out there, but obviously you, Kirill, know very well. For those who don't know, Kirill's the man behind the new silver pool. So the underwriting piece, right, is like it's really a core part as we decentralize the entire flow from bringing, like, lending someone money to like how this is all done on chain, and how it's decided where the money comes from, and so on. And really, I think the goal should be, how do we, you said it's broken, the system today. I agree, and this has like been a big motivation, and why we started Centrifuge was because we believe a lot of people didn't have access to capital for reasons that really didn't make sense. Like they were either like too exotic of an asset class, or like no bank wanted to deal with them, or it was just like something that wasn't really that didn't fit like a very clear box that a bank could put this loan in, right? And I think with bringing different underwriters to the table that can think outside of these boxes and come up with ways to price these assets and create sort of the necessary capabilities to price and underwrite these assets, that's actually when it gets really exciting. And that's really the goal of the underwriter token, is to pull in all of these different people and give them a revenue model so that they can actually do that, earn money with it, and help us build out this system.
And I just want to add real quick, thanks, Lucas. I think the exotic assets are certainly, an interesting part of this whole thing. And I mean, we don't have such an exotic assets ourselves, just, fairly exotic in the real estate world, but not, not super new. But I think the traditional financing models are just inherently broken. And I'm a little bit, I've been following like the MakerDAO forums on how the RWA, teams and structure is kind of under discussion right now. And I think it's kind of trending towards traditional finance, which is, I hope it doesn't go there, because it really this whole thing, DeFi came out of the fact that traditional finance was not working for a lot of people and had a lot of flaws. So I think, decentralizing the whole process is what I'm personally excited about, just in general, in the general finance world. And I think eventually it should, it may not be like super exotic assets that come on, right? It could be very old traditional assets like real estate and consumer mortgages and $1 trillion assets that have been around forever, but the system is not as efficient and is broken in many ways.
Yeah. I see two hands.
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in whenever.
Yeah, Sam, go ahead.
Hey guys, how is everyone? What I find personally really exciting is the untapped potential of just the huge amount of liquidity that you will have available from the potential institutional investors. So I was wondering, how do you find a balance in trying to aim kind of to growing bigger and moving towards institutional investment, and then also kind of keeping the smaller kind of public side investment, how Tin Lake's already going? What's the kind of process in divvying your time up and figuring kind of what's the best way to go?
Interesting. I think maybe like this, and this is DeFi as a whole, probably. The idea is that the protocol and the user interface, right, is open to everybody, and you make as much of these processes public. So like, of course, like in the financial system today, like a lot of the individuals, like as an individual investor, if I have $10,000 and I want to go, I'm not going to get access to some like nearly like a large part of the market of like where I could invest these $10,000, except for the public stock market, maybe like some other ways to buy assets, but like yeah, the rest is pretty hidden and gets sort of financed by like one bank talking to another, or one financial like institutional investor talking to another. I think that's the thing we have to avoid, right? Is that we actually keep the product accessible, keep the information accessible for people to make decisions and sort of and decide how they want to invest, and give them the ability to do so in the same way that institutional investors who are doing this professionally can. I think it's going to be interesting though, because if you're thinking of investing $10,000, you obviously can spend a lot less time on figuring out if you actually want to invest than if you're investing $1 million, because if you make a small amount of interest a year, you're able to pay for the time you spend much less, right? And so actually there, I think, and this was a question, Ron, you asked about what's the advantage of investing in pools via Aave Maker. If you become a liquidity provider in the Aave market, you actually don't have to underwrite every single deal, but you're just in sort of in a way optimally allocating to whichever pool has a need for liquidity, and you're in a way delegating the underwriting, sort of the risk management to the in the long run the Aave token holders who manage this market and set the risk parameters, right? And then sort of you get the scale that you don't have to do it, have to pick individual pools. And that's maybe one interesting way that I think Aave will make providing liquidity to centrifuge pools very attractive, because if I'm an individual and every 2 weeks I have to look at, okay, like does this pool need liquidity now, or does that pool need liquidity? Then like it's a lot of work that I need to do for my 10,000 DAI in investment, and that's something that the Aave market does for you, right?
Justin.
Cool. Yeah, I'll jump in as well. Yeah, I think I'm quite similar to Kirill, and like thing that really excites me about Centrifuge and everything that's happening is the ability to create a completely different kind of underwriting model of how we actually look at assets. I mean, the world just changed so much so quickly, but like, I mean, I think probably the way we value assets is, I'd imagine it's the same way for like 300 years, probably. Like when the Bank of England was set up, I don't think anything's really changed much in the way we actually look at assets. And, the wider financial system has changed a lot, but our like actual approach to how we think about valuation is basically the same for hundreds of years. And I don't think that's right. And I think that an opportunity to give people power to kind of come together and find their own way of valuing an asset that they feel comfortable with, their kind of educated model that they're putting their money behind, and like, I think that's really, really powerful, and I think that has potential to scale to everything. I think and I think what that like a side effect of what I think could be really exciting from that is I think it unlocks a lot of general innovation in wider markets. Like I do a lot of work in real estate, and I know that anyone that wants to create a kind of slightly innovative product will find it really, really difficult to finance. So they might be able to get the equity piece, but trying to find a bank to lend on it will just be like super impossible. And as a result of that, it means that property developers just build the same stuff time and time again. So the product that people can build is actually, they're like very, very limited in their innovation as a result of a very stagnant financing market for real world assets. So yeah, I think that's the kind of, that vision that really excites me about Centrifuge. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And yeah, I'm sure we'd love to get this conversation around what does this new mode or model of underwriting look like? What do we need to be taking into account? Like, how does it play with the whole new world of finance that's being built? Is a super valuable conversation. Any last comments before we move on to hearing from Leah about Aave?
Cool, I'll take this as a cue. Okay, cool. Aave, okay, that's actually super exciting to finally be talking about another DeFi partnership, and with Aave, one of the largest DeFi protocols here. This is extra exciting. And I think before jumping into what we're doing with Aave, I think it's also interesting to just like take a look again at what with Centrifuge, and especially like with TinLake, we've really been thinking about what's the best and safest way to bridge the real world or traditional finance to the to DeFi, and how to do this in a secure but also in a way that scales. And when building the infrastructure for TinLake, we of course had we were heavily influenced also by the way Maker is set up, but overall, TinLake is really, the essence of it is that it is really also composable within the wider DeFi, and it's really cool to see that these pieces are now finally coming together. And as Lucas said, we've had a lot of hurdles and like a lot of hoops that we needed to jump through when getting integrated with Maker, but there are a lot of learnings along the way. And I mean, now we are the first ones that bridged real world assets to MakerDAO, and we are the first ones that, or actually Kirill was the first one to mint real world asset backed DAI. So this is pretty amazing, and that only happened actually this year. And with our partnership with Aave, we're now looking forward to expand this use case to wider DeFi, and with that actually also grow DeFi beyond of what it is now. And I have prepared 1 or 2 slides to just make it a little bit easier to understand, because the setup is a bit different from Aave. And I think I have here on this one side, I think most of you are familiar with that. I have here the dashboard of like all the different pools that are currently live with on Tinlake. And so here are all the individual pools. And for example, New Silver or other ones here, like FortunaFi, they are all individually onboarded to Maker. So they all have their individual vaults where they can mint new DAI. And what we're planning with Aave is we're actually planning on launching a real world asset market there, where we will have no longer will look at single collateral types or like individual pools, but actually several pools will be able to access or like provide collateral to this pool. And on the other hand, here you have the Aave users that can provide liquidity to that pool and then sort of invest against like a balanced portfolio of these individual real world assets. And what we're doing here is, maybe that's interesting to note as well, we're making use here of a new feature of that Aave is launching. So I think we'll also be one of the first teams to make use of it or to deploy it. It will be a permission pool, and it will be a similar setup to what you know from investing in a pool on Tinlake. The investors or like the liquidity providers will also go through KYC on Aave and then be able to diversify their portfolio to uncorrelated or like an even more uncorrelated asset portfolio. And that is from the investor side, but maybe then also to look at it from the borrower side. So for example, you have a New Silver that has currently the debt ceiling that they are receiving from Maker is about 20 million. If they're with the current origination rate, there will be more capital needs, and with being listed on the Aave market as well, it will allow companies like New Silver to move between those different platforms and tap into different liquidity sources from like both DeFi, but then, as Lucas has mentioned at the beginning, also the institutional capital that we're building out as well. So this is overall the concept. Happy to also answer some questions there, but maybe just to look at where we're at. So we had quite a nice AMA last week, Thursday, with both the Aave and Centrifuge community. We will be on if you want to learn a little bit more as well, we will be on the Aave community call on the September 14th, yes. And we went through this stage basically. So we started with this initial proposal that we put up on the Aave forum. And this and went from that proposal to the, sorry, I should probably close my messages. Yeah, we went from this initial proposal to this Aave snapshot that just was completed this week. So it ran for about a week, and this is more or less like the Aave governance light version. So we asked the community to vote on the proposal. From like going from this stage to this this community vote, we had iterations with the Aave team on risk and how we can sort of translate the setup that we currently have with TinLake onto a market on Aave. And yeah, we got the majority of yes votes, which was really exciting to see the support here. And also, if any one of you voted on this, thanks again. And now we're heads down on making it work and launching it. And if everything, if everything goes well, we will be able to share really soon the launch date of this. So stay up to date, or we'll make sure that we share. We'll make sure that we share enough on the development here. And I saw there were a few comments here or questions.
Yeah, let's just make time for one question. Did something come through to you in the chat, or Ron, did you want to ask your question?
I was wondering about KYC for Aave. So if we've already done KYC for the existing platform, do we need to redo it for Aave?
Maybe that's a good question. Maybe Martin, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. Like eventually, like the initial, it should be the case that you don't have to go through it twice. Maybe you can, Martin, do you have
we use the same KYC provider. So if you have a securitized ID, you do not need to do KYC again.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. And just one from Yaroslav in the chat. Any estimate timeline you can share with us, weeks or months?
I think it is rather, I want to say it's rather in the weeks spectrum than it is in the month spectrum. So it's so far it's been going really well. But of course, don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we'll be able to share something really soon. This is as concrete as it gets probably for now.
Yeah, that's super concrete. Thanks, Leia. Thanks. Congrats and well done. It's a huge milestone. And yeah, we'll be announcing more details soon. So very quickly, we do want to talk quickly about the Altair crowd loan. There are some people who have joined the call for any other updates, although there have been many events on Altair and the crowd loan this week, so we're not going to spend much time there. I'll drop a few links in the chat for Cassidy's been in 4 different events talking about the Altair and the crowd loan this week, so we'll drop some details in. But Cassidy, what's the update? Where are we situated right now?
So the update is that, mostly that Altair exists. It's our parachain for Kusama. It is number 4 now, and there's going to be 5 slots in this round. So pretty excited about that, but would still love your KSM contributions into this crowd loan so that we can secure this parachain slot. I think in terms of questions that we've been asked, I'm just going to pull up some of the ones. I think there was one of the larger overarching questions is just about use case of Altair and like what what it will look like going forward, how we're going to use it. Is it going to be a permanent thing that's a part of our ecosystem? And yes, it is something that we want to live long term. It is, I would say, sort of like this experimental little brother to Centrifuge chain. So it's really where we want experimental assets, ideas, use cases to live within the Centrifuge ecosystem. So it's really where we can push the boundaries, try things out with real value at stake without affecting the assets, the value that's living on Centrifuge chain. So it's really sort of a test bed for us where we can let things break, so to say, and do that in a place that's much safer rather than doing it on Centrifuge chain where there might be hundreds of millions of value at stake. So that's really the context for Altair. I think one of the more exciting use cases I've been mentioning a lot recently that we're thinking about is something like, imagine if you could finance your CryptoPunks. And I think that's a pretty cool idea, something that we're going to start working on once Altair launches. So creating something like a DAO that's owning a bunch of different NFTs, including something like CryptoPunks, and providing financing for that on Altair with the Kusama ecosystem. And so in terms of, Yaroslav asked if Altair could take liquidity from places outside of the Kusama ecosystem, and it definitely could, as long as those stablecoins are bridged to the Kusama ecosystem somehow. So there'll probably be a bridge from Kusama to other networks. So probably to start, it would be easiest to finance with something like the Karura dollar, which is the Karura parachain's stablecoin within the Kusama ecosystem. So since it's there, that's probably the easiest to get started with, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't also use lots of other types of stablecoins to access liquidity. Is there any other specific question, Kate, that you've been getting a lot that we could answer?
A bit about the roadmap. Like obviously the crowd loan needs to happen, and then there's a few things that need to happen after. I think that's one of the questions that we haven't addressed so much in other documents. If you can say anything to that. Yeah, I think I can drop a link to the what to expect blog post that we have that outlines what the launch process looks like specifically. So it's going to be a process in stages. So once Altair becomes a parachain, it's not going to be fully live and ready quite yet. It will implement collators, then governance, then staking, then finally at the very end, balance transfers. And so there will be this process of actually adding functionality to the chain, making sure that everything is working properly before finally allowing people to actually transfer the Air token that they hold on Altair. Once Altair is live and running, the next huge push is migrating Tin Lake over to Altair. So that's a much longer term project that's probably going to happen over several months into the future. And then that's when we could expect different sort of exciting use cases like this CryptoPunks idea that I mentioned coming once that actually launches on Altair. So it is, a sort of longer timeline there, so it's not going to happen overnight. But I think it should be pretty exciting once it does go live. Awesome. So there's a few questions in the chat that perhaps we can try to take in the chat, because we do need to pass over to the wonderful Jason Jones, who is here with us to present Enbridge and the gig economy. So perhaps we can just, Cassidy, if you don't mind, like having those questions in the chat, that would be excellent. And Jason, I think you should be able to share your screen. Jason Jones is I think we'd call you a serial entrepreneur in financial services innovation, who was once part of the Centrifuge team, and we're really stoked that he is bringing forward Enbridge and the gig economy. So he will now take the stage. Can you share easily?
Yep, I think I'm good. I'll let you know once I try to share. But hello, everybody. I'm Jason. Nice to meet you all who I don't know. Hello to all my old friends that are out there as well. I'm happy to be here today. As many of you guys know, I was formerly Chief Commercial Officer for Centrifuge. I left at the end of June, so I've been kind of out in the wild for 2 months now, building my next project, which is in the Centrifuge ecosystem. I like to say that I haven't left Centrifuge, I've just taken a different role within the ecosystem. That's how decentralization works. And I'm going to show you what we do. I created a new business called Enbridge. N stands for early, new, and different. Bridge is the bridge to DeFi. So I want to focus on bridging real world assets to DeFi within the Centrifuge ecosystem. I'm going to share my screen. We'll go over some stuff. I'll show you a little bit about my new pool that I've spun up called Gig Pool. But really what I want to share with you is how to size up a pool on Centrifuge. It's a passion of mine. I think a lot of people still don't know exactly how to evaluate any pool. So I took the chance to evaluate my own pool. I rated my own pool, and I'm going to show you guys how I size up my own pool, which is not perfect by any means, but has a lot to be improved on and will be improved over time. So here goes. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, again, Jason Jones. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at jason@enbridge.com with a dash between end and bridge. So my philosophy generally is codifying rules leads to greater fluidity of money. I want to take every rule that I can, every rule in those subscription documents, every rule we can, codify them, and I believe that we will be able to get more money flowing as a result. And what we do, Enbridge, our goal is to create a lending robot that fully automates securitizations in which collateral is compiled, structured, priced, sold, monitored, rebalanced, and visualized without any human intervention. I think Centrifuge is already on the way there, and I want to continue that. They need partners, so we provide work to the TinLake protocol. Our services. My clients are asset originators who are seeking debt capital. What we've realized kind of building out TinLake is that there are a lot of asset originators out there that for one reason or another can't touch crypto because of regulatory issues, or don't want to touch crypto because of the technology barriers, and they just don't know anything about it. But yet they want to seek debt capital, and having an intermediary like Enbridge really helps the process. So we are an issuer. We form TinLake pools, and we license technology to issue drop and tin tokens from Centrifuge. We will also become an underwriter. We evaluate every asset originator. We score the risk. We structure the deals, and we lead the pricing of the assets, and we put our own skin in the game. So again, we serve the community by creating pools on TinLake. One of the things we realized is that TinLake could get unwieldy really quickly with the amount of asset originators that have approached Centrifuge, and we feel like there's an orderly way of evaluating all of those opportunities. And one of the things we can do is this issuer/asset originator model, where one issuer can invest in multiple asset originators, which is exactly what we've done with the Gig Pool, and I'll go into it in a little detail. So what is the Gig Pool? Well, we believe in real-time finance, where workers' pay is streamed as they perform service. And we believe the blockchain will enable this. Get paid live for the work that you do. We're not there yet. So where the Gig Pool is going to start to begin with is we will provide payment on demand for gig economy workers who say, pay me now. An Uber driver has already provided their services, and now they have to wait 60 days to get paid by Uber. A musician has already streamed their songs on Spotify and is now waiting 60 days to get paid by Spotify. A YouTube influencer or a TikTok influencer has already promoted their products on TikTok or YouTube and is waiting 60 days to be paid by YouTube or TikTok. It doesn't really make sense. Like, they've already done the work. Why are they waiting? These companies have a lot of money, but they're just they're just waiting to pay, and people want to get paid now. So the gig pool will start by helping those workers get paid now. In the future, we will stream real time. And actually, as I heard you guys talk about Altair, maybe that's an experiment. Maybe we could get a few people who want to stream their salaries and create a streaming pool of salaries on Altair. That might be something experimental that'd be fun to work with within the gig pool. The gig pool will have multiple asset originators within it. Our first asset originator is called Moves, and Moves works with Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, kind of traditional kind of gig economy workers in the delivery space. Our second pool, which will launch very soon, is Paperchain. Paperchain is going to actually shut down their own pool and then roll into the gig pool, and we will handle kind of all the operations, the capital markets operations for Paperchain. And then we have some other asset originators coming in the future. So if you go onto Tin Lake, you'll see the pool. The pool's already live. It's called the Gig Economy Pool. And you can see we have about 300,000 live on it. We welcome anyone to invest, and you're welcome to contact me if you're interested. But now I want to go into actually sizing up a pool. So I looked at my own pool, and I rate myself a 5.1. And first of all, I shouldn't be rating myself. This is a opportunity for some entrepreneurial builder out there who wants to build within our community to build a rating service on of all the pools on a non-biased rating service of all the pools on Tin Lake. But I'm just going to show you how I rated my own pool and where I think I have room for improvement. And by the way, I wrote an article about this in the Centrifuge forum. I put a link down here below to how to size up a pool on Tin Lake. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how I got to these ratings for each one of these things and show you on Tin Lake how to size up a pool. Okay, 1 second. You know what? I have to stop sharing and reshare. 1 second. Okay, so here's Tin Lake. So the first rating I had was my launch date. I give myself a rating of a 1 for launch date because it's brand new. And if you want to know launch date, here you can go to assets. You can look at when the very first NFT was financed on August 5th. So this pool is brand new. It's just getting going. Given the launch date, I give my rating a 1. And it's out of a 10 scale. So it's brand new. As a result, since it's early, it's very early. There's more risk in investing in this pool because it's so early stage. I'm still getting all the mechanics working for the pool. The second rating is pool size. So my pool size is 306,000. It's one of the smallest pools in Tin Lake right now. Silver Lake's the biggest with 13 million. Bling has 6 million. Branch has 5 million. Concentrates at 1. Harbor Trades at 2. I'm way down here at 300,000. So I'm one of the smallest pools on the market. So I'm going to give myself a rating of a 2. Of course, I'm only 1 month in, so it's not surprising that I have one of the smallest pools. Hopefully I can grow that over time relatively quickly. The next is yield. I give myself a rating of a 7 for yield. So right now I'm got a yield of 6.1%. That's, I think, the third highest yield on the platform right now. Branch is the highest, 9.8. Bling is at 7.6 or 7.7. And then Gig Economy is number 3. So that's pretty good. So I'm giving myself a rating of a 7 for yield. The next is liquidity. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand is that when you invest in a pool on Centrifuge, if you wanted to withdraw, hopefully you can withdraw that day if there's enough cash on hand. You can see cash on hand right here. If there's enough cash in hand, you can withdraw immediately. But let's say all of the people of this pool wanted to withdraw on the same day. Well, there's 300,000 in the pool, but only 200,000 in cash available. There's another 100,000 that's already invested. So we would cash out the 200, but then everybody would have to wait for this asset to finally pay off before cashing out the remaining 100 in this pool. In this case, my assets have an average maturity of 60 days. So you'd have to wait at maximum up to 60 days in order to be paid back. Whereas other pools may have a longer term asset and it may take longer to get paid back. It's an important consideration. So in terms of liquidity, I give my pool a rating of 9. You can get paid back relatively quickly, not immediately, but relatively quickly within 90 days. You should be able to get all your money back if you need out and everybody else wants to get out at the same time. The next is protection. We want to know how much insurance do you have in this pool? How much is the tin tranche insuring the drop tranche by taking the first losses as the kind of the residual piece? Well, the minimum tin tranche is 20% for this pool. In other words, 20% of the pool must be invested by tin. Currently, it's at 33% because I have a lot of cash, but the minimum is 20%. So I know there's a relatively high protection there at 20%. I give my rating an 8 for protection. I think it's pretty good protection for this pool. The next is execution. With execution, we want to know how well is this pool investing the funds that it's been given. Right? In this case, I have $300,000 in this pool, but I've only invested $100,000, which means there's $200,000 just sitting in cash. $100,000 is earning yield, 200 is sitting in cash earning nothing. So the blended return is lower than it would be if I had put all 300,000 into deals immediately earning yield, right? So from an execution perspective, I currently have 66% sitting in cash. That's not too good. I give my rating a 2. However, there's a footnote there. And the footnote is that I just collected that $200,000 in the last 2 weeks. And that money is being deployed today. So actually later on today, I'm minting a few NFTs and I'm going to deploy that money. So yes, my cash balance is very high right now, but it's not as if it's been sitting there earning nothing for a long time. It's only been sitting there for a couple of weeks. And now that I've gathered it all, I'm going to deploy it. Now that's the end of, or at the beginning of the month, I'm going to deploy it. So it's really important to see that. You can also see that in assets. If you look at assets, you can see here that my assets funded is this blue line and the assets coming into my pool is this gray line. If you look at any pool and you see a big deviation between the blue line and the gray line, and it lasts for a long period of time, that means that that pool manager is not executing well. And it's a red flag to consider. So while my execution is low right now, 2%, I think I can get this money deployed quickly and I can get my execution score up. Next is concentration. In this case, I've only invested in one NFT so far, a $100,000 NFT. There's no concentration. I mean, there's high concentration risk. There's only one deal done. If you look at some other pools, you'll see 50 or more NFTs that have been created. In other words, they've spread out their risk. If one NFT fails for whatever reason, there's 49 others that protect you. In this case, again, I'm just getting going. There's only one NFT here. So you do have concentration risk. Therefore, I give my concentration score a 2. That being said, this $100,000 is actually made up of hundreds of smaller $100 to $300 payment advances to gig economy workers. So within this $100,000 NFT, there's a lot of diversity, which kind of helps. Next is experience. What is my experience? Well, I was the chief commercial officer of TinLake, so I know the product really well, and I've been in the space as an investor for a really long time. So that's one area where I think this pool has a lot of credibility, and I'd probably give it a 10. So the rating for experience is a 10. Overall, if I go back overall, when looking at all of that, oh yeah, one more thing. The last thing is the bonus. I forgot to mention it. The bonus isn't related to my pool necessarily, but something that everybody should take a look at. Anyone investing in any TinLake pool is going to make 46% on CFG right now. Of course, that's a variable rate, but as of right now, you're making 46% in CFG for investing in any of these pools. So the liquidity mining award for being an early investor in TinLake is amazing right now, making all of these pools super attractive to invest in. That being said, always do your homework, evaluate the risk, determine the rating of your pool, determine what matters to you, and then go ahead and make an investment. If you're interested in investing in my pool, I'd love to talk to you, love to get to know you. Again, it's jason@enbridge.com. Hopefully that was helpful.
Wow, that was a very good presentation of TinLake and how to size up a pool, Jason. Nailed it.
You know what? I'll do a little write-up. I'll put my rating into the forum so people can see how I sized up my own pool. And then I'd love someone else to size it up and give me a rating as an independent, unbiased source.
Yeah, do we have any takers to size up Jason's pool? Maybe Justin. What do you think about taking on this challenge?
Right on, let's do it.
Cool. Any comments or questions just quickly before we close for Jason? So Jason, one question I have is, like, 60 days, why, like you said, they just do it for no reason, this payment term, right? Like, but there must be a reason. Like, is it to do with liquidity cycles or credit?
Yeah,
or what?
it's the longer they hold on to their money, the more money they can make on their money, and they don't have any like pressing reason to deploy that money to these workers faster. So they're basically taking advantage of the float. But really, they don't know. These are very wealthy companies that could afford to pay people right away. It's also just processes, right? It's also probably just a little bit of it's always been done that way. So so people don't consider it otherwise. It's just how big companies pay. So a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, I think maybe jumping in here, it's really like, those payment terms help a company to finance their business through their suppliers when they pay their suppliers late. And here the gig economy workers or the suppliers, it works in a supply chain, like you can push it forward from supplier to supplier. But if you're at the very end, like those gig workers, you're literally kind of, fucked. And that's where gig pool is helping.
Okay, this is a very important mission. We want to change the situation. So thank you, Jason, for presenting on that. And I think there's quite a lot of people that will review this and go into your how to size up a pool in more detail. So Sebastian, quickly, did you want to ask something?
Hi,
okay.
can I ask Jason the last question?
Please
quick
be my guest.
Can you elaborate on the mechanism that you use in order to make sure that the payments are paid from the asset originators? Are you using something like a sweep account or a DACA? How do you ensure that?
Yeah, good question. So we have depending on the asset originator, it changes by asset originator, and setting up a DACA account is a very good idea, and we are in the process of setting up these back-end accounts right now. The agreement we have with Moves is a promissory note, where I sign a promissory note with them, deliver them the capital, and they agree to pay me back with interest in 60 days, backed by a pool of assets that they basically ring fence for me. Eventually, that'll get more sophisticated over time, and certainly the structure of the banking account, where there's kind of permissioned access through DACA, makes a lot of sense. One more thing. There's risk in this process, and and there's a couple ways of doing it. The first way Moves is doing it, the first way they did it was they would advance money to the worker, and then they would collect from the worker once the worker got paid, leaving risk that the worker could take that money from Uber, for instance, and just run away. They've upgraded their systems to the point now where that worker must open a Moves bank account, and it's still the worker's bank account. So Uber still pays the worker, but it's a Moves bank account, and Moves can go right into that bank account and extract the money that is their money at a certain time of the month, every month. That's number two. The third way that they will get to, probably in a year or so, is that they will do a payment redirect. So instead of Uber paying the worker will inform Uber to pay this new bank account, which is actually Moves bank account. That eliminates all risk of the worker actually running away with money.
Got it. I know we're running out of time here, so maybe if last question is taking a little too long, but would love to know, obviously, like the Uber and the Spotify of the world will most likely pay 99% 99% of the time. How do you make sure, well, I guess what kind of credit rating are you willing to go down to? And does that also play a big role in the interest that you're earning from the asset originator?
Absolutely. So right now, my counterparty risk is the Ubers and the Spotifys of the world, and I'm willing to take that counterparty risk. Is very low risk. They won't pay. It's a matter of when they will pay and their track record. We actually looked at their track record of paying, and their track record. All of our counterparties so far pay on the date that they say they will pay, which is not surprising since they're big and they have very strong operations. We're not ready to go down to smaller counterparties yet. Because this is a pretty good model right now, and there's plenty of gig economy workers working for very large corporations. So that's kind of our focus right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Pep. Great questions. We are at a little bit late, so I'll turn off the recording now. Thanks a lot, Jason. Leah's already gone. Thanks to her and Cassidy. And Sebastian, did you want to propose that we just hang out here for a bit?
Yeah, exactly. That's just one thought I had, that we actually have a community call, and maybe we can try to make it a call for the community as well. So if anyone likes to, just hang around, like have a round table conversation inside of the community, I would love to. I think we could all share our thoughts, opinions on real-world assets, Tin Lake, pool ideas, whatever. It's just a thing. Community is really important. So yeah, it would be a nice thing, just to help each other or to get new ideas, like Lucas said before. It would just be nice to build a nice community and be there and answer questions, learn from each other, and that would be awesome if we can extend this community call for, I don't know, half an hour, how, just whatever, how.
Yeah,
or how we can afford time, or like time is mostly shorted for everyone, but if someone wants to talk about something or whatever, we could just hang around a bit more and have a nice conversation. Nothing is better than good conversations.
for sure.
So if someone if we do it now or today or the next time, or like people from the community could just write something for in the chat or whatever, we will be here and just get a nice conversation this time, next time. We would love to just spread it.
Pep, do you want to? So I'm just curious. I think it's a very good idea, Sebastian, just to have it's more like a hangout space, right? It's like for anyone to feel free to ask anything, to chat. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, right, to chat. I mean,
so there's a question from Pep. I'm quite curious, are you new? Do you want to talk to your question?
Yeah, just wanted to find out a little more. Maybe some of you guys in the community have some resources that you can point me to on the tokenomics of CFG CFG tokens. From my I get that it's to be determined, right? And the Centrifuge chain, so it's a protocol token, but not wanting to focus so much on how many CFGs there are, like CFG rewards, that type of thing, more geared towards the functions or the real usage of CFGs. And I know, it's going to be determined and ideas are going to come up over time, right? So just wanted to see if anyone has more thoughts on that or any resources you guys can point me to.
Cool. 1 second, I'm just about to stop the recording. I forgot.